We have been doing a series on making remote work work. It's turned out to be quite long. So if you have been with us since the beginning, welcome and well done. We have covered two of the three pillars required, practicality and legality, and we are currently looking at productivity, making sure the work gets done and gets done properly. So far, we have looked at creating processes for your employee so that they know what to do and how and by when. And then we looked at onboarding, handover, and overall management processes for you to ensure that the employee has access to their processes and that you know what you are looking for in terms of outcomes and deliverables. In this video, we are going to go deeper into performance monitoring because handing work over is only part of a manager's job. It is also your job to make sure the work gets done and gets done well. But you don't want to end up micromanaging because that destroys souls and motivation and is horrible for you as well. So instead of continually hassling your employee, you want to have a process in place to monitor that progress, a way that you can look over their shoulder without annoying them at the same time or making them feel watched. You also don't want to find out on or after a deadline day that the work was never done. So you need to have a process for monitoring the progress of the work. In other words, the performance of the employee, not just managing the end-to-end of the workflow. For this, we recommend a mix of technology and human interaction. And there are three aspects to your performance monitoring process. You are going to be planning the process, then you are going to be implementing technology for managing the process, and then you are going to have check-ins for managing the human side. So once again, we need to start offline. We have to create a process. We don't go off and get ourselves a bunch of technology first. We first create our process for monitoring work, and then we go and find the tech that enables that process. So once again, we're asking questions. Got ahead of myself on the slide, but these are the suggested questions that you are going to ask while you are creating your monitoring process for your firm. A reminder that when we give you questions like this, they are suggestions, they are our ideas around what you need to be thinking about, but this is your firm. You know your workflows, you know your clients, you know what you need done. So don't be scared to ask more questions or to leave some of these off. So first of all, how do you check quality and accuracy, and what are you looking for? What are the measurements and the markers that tell you that a good job has been done? What are the job deadlines, and what constitutes a completed product? The submission deadlines are easy. They're set by the tax man and we have to comply. But when do you want the work done by? How much lead time ahead of a submission deadline do you want? And when you say you want a job finished by a certain date, what does a finished job look like? Is it an empty Dext account and a reconciled bank feed? Or is it a set of books that is completely complete to trial balance? What do you consider completed work for this employee for this deadline? And then do you know the specific milestones that you are checking? In other words, at which points along the workflow and in your work week are you checking what things? Do you know how often you should be checking in for specific jobs? Do you know what questions to ask your employee if anything flags? So if something looks wrong or incomplete, what are you going to ask them to verify if it's wrong or if they're just still busy? And what are you going to ask to encourage them to pick up their socks and meet the deadline? Does your team member know how to check their own work? Because if they are verifying their own accuracy, and if they have a task to do so by a specific deadline, that is going to make your verification much easier So it's worth adding this in if you can. Does your team member know who to go to with questions and problems? So if they are stuck, do they know who to ask? Is it the client? Is it you? Is it a colleague? Is it an outsourced partner? Who has the answers for which jobs? And do they know how to give you project updates? Have you specified the way in which you want them updated? And have you specified how they contact you with questions and updates? Is it email, Slack, WhatsApp, Teams, Carbon? How do you make sure that they can ask these questions in a way that they get answered? What is your process for monitoring these channels? Are you going to schedule specific times to look at them? Do you expect your team to check them? Or do you want the channel permanently open? Decide what communication methods work for your team beforehand. And then how will you and your team member know which tasks take priority? Think through a prioritization system. For example, you could choose to prioritize work by a specific deadline type, such as VAT. If we work with VAT, we could always make it so that we start with the clients whose VAT is due next, then move on to the clients whose VAT is due next month, and then move on to clients who aren't VAT registered at all. Or we could prioritize according to which client pays us the most. You just need a prioritized system that works for you and your business. And you want it communicated clearly to your remote worker so that they know what they should be working on first. Once you have all of these things clear in your mind and you know your timelines and you know your steps and you know how you're monitoring your employees' work progress, then we can involve software. Now, we do not recommend one particular piece of software over another, but we do recommend specific categories of software. But just a reminder before we go there, do not use your technology to create a process. You need to create your process with your questions, and then you're going to find the technology that best helps you implement the process you have already created. It goes without saying that if you are setting all of this up for a remote worker, you're going to need some form of virtual meeting technology. It doesn't matter if it's Zoom, Teams, or Google Meet or something completely different. Just make sure you have a way to meet with this employee face-to-face. Preferably pick a platform that allows you to share your screen and do recordings, because that makes training and work handover much easier. And the recordings give your employees things to refer back to in the future. You are also going to want some form of communication platform, like continuous messaging platform, something like Slack or Teams or WhatsApp. This is not a necessity, but if you are requiring your team member to interact with more than one colleague, it definitely makes a big difference for you all to be on the same chat platform. Also, especially if you have specific threads for specific issues. It can be for a specific client or a specific project or a specific work type, but it really does help to have a messaging platform. We recommend a timekeeping app of some sort. Even if you are not billing per hour, tracking the time your team spends on your clients gives you extremely valuable insight into which of your clients are most profitable. It also does help you keep some form of an overview of your remote worker, but just a note to remember that the time your employees log is not necessarily productive time. So more hours does not necessarily mean more productivity. An employee can log 8 hours for the day, but they might have spent those 8 hours on a job that should have taken them 4 hours. And a colleague could log 6 hours, but they might have had a really good day and they actually produced an outcome that normally takes 8 hours. So just tracking time is not tracking productivity, but time tracking gives you data that, when it's combined with the rest of your management process, gives you great insight into how your business is doing. And lastly, we recommend some form of project management or practice management software. something that enables you to see the workflow of your entire company in one place. You want something that allows you to create task lists. You want to see those tasks being ticked off. Preferably, you want to be able to see workflows. It doesn't really matter which one. We don't recommend specific softwares because it depends very much on your preferences and how your firm works. But we do give you a list of things to look out for when you are making your choice. I did go into this in detail on the video on choosing software, so no detail in this video, but remember to look out for ease of use, features that you actually need, so not shiny bells and whistles that you never use, things that you actually do need, and a price you can afford. Remember, if you do find it overwhelming to find and choose software, because there is a lot of options out there and we're not tech experts, go find a tech expert. We highly recommend App Advisory Plus, but they're not the only tech experts out there. So find one you like and stop feeling lost and overwhelmed and get your tech sorted with the help of someone who knows what they're doing if you are feeling overwhelmed by the choices. And then we come to human check-ins, because there are things that tech cannot do or will not do. It cannot tell you if a job was done well or if it was done poorly. It only tells you it was done. It doesn't show you exactly where the gaps are in skills and knowledge for that employee. It doesn't show you what you can do about that poor work or missing knowledge. And it doesn't tell you if your star employee is actually happy, because it gives no indication of an employee's mental state. So we cannot remove the human element of management. You have to interact with your team member as well as monitoring their checklists. Now, when we have team members in the office with us, we do routine check-ins without even thinking about it. So as we walk past their office, we pop our head in the door and we ask how they're doing, or we bump into them in the kitchen. We can ask how a particular project is going, but this does not happen with a remote team member. So we have to actively plan the check-ins instead. Daily huddles are a really great way to plan your team's work in general. If you plan your team's work for the week, it can be done via an online platform so that it's possible for your remote workers to attend the daily huddle with your office workers. And it helps all of your team members to know what work you want them to be prioritizing and what is important to you for that week. And a daily or weekly, doesn't have to be every day, but a huddle is a very powerful tool for fostering team spirit, and you should try to include at least 5 minutes of non-work related chat in order to strengthen friendships and relationships within your team. It's a great way to get the team to get together and to start interacting with each other as colleagues and people instead of just accountants. But it's also very powerful for managing work. It gives you a daily overview of what your team is working on, how far they are, and more importantly, whether or not they need help. If you're not doing daily huddles now, I do suggest that you bring them in. They don't have to be long. They shouldn't be longer than 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes a day can literally transform your workflow. But a daily huddle is a team check-in. Your remote worker is still not getting the benefit of those casual meetings in the hallway or the coffee and kitchen gossip around the water cooler and all of those things. And you still can't pop your head into the door of their office and ask if they're okay. So do a personal weekly check-in with them. Use something like email, WhatsApp, Teams chat, or a phone call. Just do something that establishes a routine of checking in with your team member regularly to reassure them that being out of sight doesn't mean they are out of mind. It also gives them a chance to ask questions or verify information without witnesses, so they're not feeling uncomfortable. And it gives you a chance to remind them of deadlines or to give or get feedback on specific work items that are worrying you. When the employee is brand new, so you're still in your onboarding phase and they're learning a new task or they're learning a new client, it actually makes a massive difference if you do this weekly touch point via virtual meeting, because that gives you a chance to interact in real time. But once they're settled in and they're used to the workflows, then an email or WhatsApp is probably just fine. If you aren't running your weekly check-in via a virtual meeting, then we highly recommend a monthly one. A monthly one-to-one via a virtual platform will not just help you to manage the employee and help them to manage their workload, it also gives you a chance to build a relationship with them. Regular check-ins are a vital part of your monitoring process. You cannot just rely on a team member to be working, because even if they are working, they could be working the wrong way or they could be prioritizing the wrong clients. And you cannot just rely on the technology because it doesn't give you the full picture. So you need to mix your process, the technology, and the human touch and do regular scheduled check-ins. It's good for you and it's good for your team member. So by now, in this entire process, you should have defined your roles and responsibilities and determined what your new team member will be doing and how, and the outcomes that you expect, and how you're going to monitor those outcomes and measure their performance in terms of delivering those outcomes. Please do spend some time solidifying all of this into clearly defined systems and processes. I know it takes time to do that, but it makes a massive difference for you in the future. Please also a reminder to grab our completely free ebook on managing remote employees. In the book, we go into way more detail regarding setting up your onboarding processes and delegation processes and monitoring processes. So do grab that and go through it when you have time. Before we close off this series completely, we are going to take a closer look at the human element. So in the next couple of videos, we're going to have a look at giving feedback and ensuring engagement.